Hey YouTube, this is Jack from Curious Culture, and today I'd like to talk about the two different cognitive functions in different types. And these two different cognitive functions are introverted thinking and extroverted thinking. So introverted thinking is the primary function in INTP types and ISTP types, and then there's extroverted thinking, which is the primary in ESTJs and ENTJs. So I find that introverted thinking as an INTP is driven towards knowledge and answers. It wants to figure out a system, a coherent system of knowledge that fits together and makes sense and gives a sense of satisfaction to the introverted thinker, understanding a topic or worldview in a way that seems logical. And like that's one way of looking at it. Or there's like the classic ISTP type where they're the mechanic, and the way their introverted thinking operates is that they have auxiliary extroverted sensing. So the classic stereotype for ISTP is the mechanic. So they'll look at a car and they'll learn how to fix a car, and they'll look at all the components and how it all fits together, and that's the introverted thinking at work. And the extroverted sensing makes them super aware of their environment, and gives them that strong kinesthetic ability to then put the car together and make it all function. INTPs can be okay at this. I tried electrical work. I'm now a social worker, and courier work, and also YouTube, like, because my passion for knowledge. So part of me kind of wants to do hands-on work sometimes, but I think it is the extroverted sensing that is combined with the introverted thinking in an ISTP that gives them that natural edge in that line of work, in those sort of fields. So whereas an INTP is more of the stereotypical programmer, whereas like if you look at a computer programming sort of life and career, computer programs is more about understanding a conceptual system, and ISTPs are also great at this too, can be. So there's a lot of overlap with the dominant function in either type. Each type can look very similar and operate very similarly too. Some ISTPs are great at IT. It's just that INTPs can be very good at IT because it's more conceptual, and their introverted thinking and extroverted intuition wants to look at all the different angles of the field and put it all together in a coherent system. Introverted thinking gathers information more, and wants to look at things from a lot more angles before taking action, usually. This is especially true for INTPs because extroverted intuition creates that desire to look at topics and different things from a lot of angles, and enjoys that contemplation process. Extroverted thinking can be a lot more simple, where it looks at the external world and thinks like, for example, like an ISTJ type. I noticed with my dad, who's an ISTJ, he says, "Oh, you should buy a house," and this is probably more introverted sensing, but the extroverted thinking is like, buy that house, put yourself in a better position, do that logical action, like just do it, like just take those, few basic steps and get that done. Whereas introverted thinking is more like, oh, I want to think about this, and take my time to make my own decision as it fits in my own worldview. So I appreciate suggestion and the way extroverted thinking thinks. An ENTJ friend, he ran a big business, and he suggested, he would say you need to become a doer, just take action, don't overthink. And that's great, and that's very true. but it has its place. And what I like about ENTJ types is that because of auxiliary NI, introverted intuition, he would say, "Oh, I wish I could just stay at home and read books all day," because he would like to form that worldview with his NI, through his NI. And I think that, yeah, you could say like NI is kind of similar to TI in that sense, like in certain ways, but I think like because I'm trying to grow as a person and understand myself and all that, is I feel like there's a time for action and then there's a time for reflection, and we sense that we need that reflection to then make the action better. Um, my ENTJ friend really liked Einstein, who's an INTP. I know that's a very specific kind of INTP, but what he symbolises is a very reflective individual, and then has that strong reflection guiding his life in a healthy way. And I think a lot of ENTJs can rush through life and achieve a lot, and then it's you know on TE overdrive, and then feel a need to pull back and have more of a reflective and calm life. And I enjoyed talking to my ENTJ friend about a book called Calm, and how we can be more calm in our lives and ultimately to be calm in action. So I think like because as an INTP, I've looked down the traditional Buddhist path. I spent a month at a monastery. I've seen that life to a degree, and I have felt the peace and the stillness that is awesome. And I've also seen multimillionaires, um, and their attitudes, uh, and it's kind of created a tug of war in me. I see these different worldviews. I stayed at a monastery where the head monk was an ISTP. He used to work in finance and in the big corporate world 14 hours a day, and he was a multi-millionaire. He told me it got boring, but that's him, you know. I know people that have all that money and they love it. They love their life. You can see though that they have certain passions and stuff like that. Buddhism talks about like the anger and greed and stuff, and pretty good people overall. But I'm curious about how people can find a balance, and I think you look at this world and I was reading about how like ISTP types can really be drawn to like a Buddhist sort of way of life, like later on in their life, as it offers peace and simplicity, and it's a very practical path, really. Like it's easy for them to see, oh, this is how you practice it, get peace from it, simple, no fluff, like, and that's a worldview that's nice for introverted thinking, as it simplifies the external and creates a sense of inner peace, and which introverted thinking probably ultimately looks for. Because when you think about like what's the ultimate goal of like someone introverted thinking, it's like, well, there's a desire for truth, and so what does truth boil down to? It's living peacefully and finding a way of life that creates that inner peace, because the inner peace is a sense of all the pieces coming together in one's mind and then resulting in that emotional state of peace. And that could be like the ultimate like result that an introverted thinker looks for. Extrovert thinking, I wonder if they look for this too. There has been, it just seems like they need more external organisation to come to that. I could imagine maybe an extrovert thinker living a monastic life, and then they do still do quite a bit on the outside, and that's just how the world operates. So it's interesting because you see how we need extroverted thinking in this world to make the world run. Like we need essential services, we need doctors, banks, whatever, and so and then there's also a place for monks, and I'm not saying this is like talking in extremes, but what I've noticed, it's like say you have a scale. It's like the ISTP monk his introverted thinking has come to a lot of satisfaction from such a simple life on the outside, and then a lot of inner peace from cultivating that worldview. And then the ENTJ, $100 million business, um, and this is like a rough view. There's a lot more nuance to it. I think that every person is drawn to different paths. Like, it's just how it is. Like, some people go through school and they're like, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be this, I want to be that. And they just know. Like, and for me, I knew as well over time, it's like, yeah, that's what I want to do with social work. And then I'm now doing remedial massage. It's, that's kind of a different topic, but to come back to introverted thinking and extroverted thinking, there's been some things where it says like, oh, ENTJs have the greatest life satisfaction, but that could be like a broad thing, like, because then introverted thinkers get just as much satisfaction from more of a simple life. But you know, there's also been like the founders of Google that are INTPs, and you know, that's a way where they can step back and look at a logical system in front of them and have a worldview and be like, wow, look at Google, and that's also super satisfying to introvert thinking. Um, and that's pretty similar to extroverted thinking, really. It's that same core satisfaction of like the system works. So there's a logical pattern that they can observe. And that's where introverted thinkers and extrovert thinkers can really get along. Because in a sense, the two functions do have some core similarities. But I do think like it's interesting because then extroverted thinkers can end up desiring more of an introverted thinking kind of style. And the same way other end. Like an INTP is like, for me, it's like, oh, I just want to put on the video and talk. And extrovert by thinking. I find Myers-Briggs super interesting. I'm always like, oh, ChatGPT, what does this mean? What does that mean? Etc. I like that MBTI is like kind of like an open field like of knowledge, and it's expanding. And I'm interested to come to more of an understanding around like cognitive functions and like introverted thinking, extrovert thinking. Just trying to think of anything else about like extrovert thinking. The traditional extrovert thinking is like Gordon Ramsay. Like I noticed, like he's an ESTJ, and he would have a busy schedule, and extrovert thinking likes to have a plan for the day. And yeah, like just like I'll finish with like, okay, this is what probably a healthy extrovert thinking looks like, is that more so for probably dominant extrovert thinkers is that they have a list of everything that's happening in their day, and then they get a sense of satisfaction of achieving those things. Whereas introvert thinking can be similar, like for sure. It might be going through a work day and altering their own thinking as the day goes on to be more, I think, more efficiently on the go. Because introverted thinking goes with a perceiving function of extroverted sensing or intuition. So it's the perceiver types that have the dominant introvert thinking. Introvert thinking can benefit a lot from reading a good book to aid their worldview and then be more effective in their day-to-day life. Same with extrovert thinking, but at the end of the day, I think there's overlap, and sometimes I feel like kind of tuning into extrovert thinking energy as an INTP. And that's another thing to keep in mind about it, is that we have a shadow type of ENTJ, and they have a shadow type of INTP, and we desire integration. And I like to think that each type grows a lot from integrating the shadow, which is a developing understanding. Like, there's more to know about that. You get more to know. Yeah, so it's there's a lot of factors. Like you could say, like one INTP has a stronger shade of the INTJ shadow than more than another. There's a lot we don't yet know about MBTI. There's a lot of nuance. Everyone can go through a personal evolution in their growth as a person, and look back and in 5 years' time, look back and be like, wow, I'm so different to how it was because of choosing actions and personal development things that really do change you in big ways. And like an INTP can feel a lot more like an ENTJ over time through development of their personality. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting topic, and if you have anything interesting to share, please comment below. Thank you. Have a great day.